Hey everyone, I'm Marbozir and welcome to Civilization 5. So, after almost 40 Civilization 5 games on the channel, almost 40 Brave New World games on the channel, I felt like I really need something fresh. So, we are going to do something very fresh, at least fresh on my channel. We are going to play Community Patch Project. Now, Community Patch Project has been a thing for quite a while now, but it had a major design change just recently, less than a month ago. And it made science not be tied to population. So you do not generate science from population anymore, which I know some people will dislike. It's a very un-Civ-like thing to do. However, I personally really enjoyed it because it gave the game a breath of fresh air, at least from my perspective. It turned the game upside down in many respects, and I kind of like that, because again, I was looking for something fresh, and this definitely feels fresh to me. There are some imbalances, especially since right now I'm playing a beta build. I'm playing the most recent beta, and I was going to wait for the next stable release, but I don't know when that's going to happen, and I really didn't want to wait much longer. It's been almost a month since the last Civ 5 series on the channel. We're going to play the beta. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter all that much, because this is going to be sort of a what the heck is Community Patch Project kind of game, because I know there are a lot of people out there who are not familiar with CPP, and there are also several different ways you can play this, but I'm not going to get into that too much. Basically, the way you can play Community Patch Project is just with the Community Balance Patch alone, which changes some things, or you can play with all of its components, which changes things like it adds additional resources, it changes your interactions with city-states, and a few other things. It makes more changes, basically. So you can play, in a nutshell, you can play with more changes or with less changes. I'm playing with the full Community Patch Project. The links are, as always, in the description below. And this is going to be a bit of a what the heck is this thing kind of game. There are a lot of new things. Like, this is almost like an entire new game. You can pretty much throw anything you know about Civ 5 out of the window, especially with the recent science change, because a lot of things are changed. Trust me, like, a lot of things are changed. Even a lot of really basic game mechanics are different. And we're going to explore all of that. So I'm going to play on lower difficulty level, because I don't really want to stress out about the game ending 100 turns in. And there are a few imbalances, let's just say, right now. I don't really want to talk about the specifics, because by the time you watch this video, it might be fixed in the next beta build, and it might even be fixed in the current beta build. But one of the problems I had in the previous builds, because I've been playing this a bit recently, is that some of the AIs can just win the game 100 or 150 turns in, depending on what speed you're playing at. So that can happen. An AI can just win the game randomly 150 turns in. That's what happened in one of my test games, quote unquote. Anyway, enough talking. We're going to play as Theodora. She's a fairly weak Civ in vanilla Civilization. However, she's actually pretty good in Community Patch Project. Her unique ability is that she is always eligible to found a religion, and she receives an additional belief when founding a religion. Now, religion is very different. All of the beliefs, the pantheons, are completely different here, as you will see. And she is also allowed to choose from beliefs already in other religions. So she's unique in the sense that you can plan your entire strategy around getting a religion with very specific beliefs, and you don't have to worry about another AI stealing them. If you have a strategy that revolves around getting specific beliefs, you don't have to restart the game if some AI beats you to them. So she's perfect for that kind of game. And her unique unit, the Cataphract, is actually really damn strong in CPP. You will see why once we start the game, because I can't right-click on this from this level. But it's a pretty damn strong unit. I would maybe even argue that it's a little bit too strong, but that's a whole different story. In any case, I'm going to play on Archipelago map, because I've not played on a non-Pangea style map in like 2 years. So I just felt like doing something different than another Pangea or another Fractal. We're going to play Archipelago. And we're going to play on standard game pace. And there are a few advanced options here. So when you start CPP by default, tech brokering is disabled, but tech trading is enabled, which means you can trade technologies, but you can't trade technologies that you didn't research yourself. I prefer to turn off tech trading because I do not like tech trading, and that option is exactly there to allow you to customize the game yourself. So I prefer to keep that turned off. It's just personal preference of mine. There's also transparent diplomacy option, which basically gives you the exact diplomacy value of each modifier you have with the AIs. I like to have that on. And I enabled strategic balance because having horses and iron is really damn important in CPP. It's way more important than in vanilla Civ. Also, our unique unit, the Cataphract, requires horses, so I don't want to have a game without horses. And I'm going to keep sea level on low to have a little bit of extra landmass. And we'll keep rainfall, temperature, and world age on random. And I think that's that. There is also an option to enable research agreements. And seeing how we turned off tech brokering and tech trading, I might enable research agreements. It's not a bad idea, I suppose. But that does mean the AIs can also use research agreements with each other. And we might or might not want that to happen. We can keep that enabled, at least that one element will be familiar. So, I think we're ready. Let's get started. I could use random personalities, but I don't think I really want to. So, let's get started.
All hail the most magnificent and magnanimous Empress Theodora, beloved of Byzantium and of Rome. From the lowly ranks of actress and courtesan, you became the most powerful woman in the Roman Empire.
Okay, so as I mentioned, there are a lot of changes in CPP. It's impossible for me to tell you everything. I can't even cover all the major changes. I would have to talk for 40 minutes and not actually play. Fun fact, I actually recorded an episode where I tried to cover all the major changes, but the way it ended is that I got over 40 minutes in and only got to turn 3, so we won't be doing that. There are, however, links in the description below, so if you want to read up about CPP, there will be links below. I will obviously talk about things as I encounter them, but I won't be sitting here and talking about all the major changes for 40 minutes before actually starting to play. Anyway, our starting location, we got some salt, which is not nearly as good as it is in vanilla Civ. It's more balanced, or it is actually balanced, because it is certainly not balanced in vanilla Civ. We started on a hill with a forest, which is actually a good thing. This is a decent-ish start. It's not amazing, but yeah, okay, we'll use it. I'm not going to restart this. It's fine. Alright. So, we are going to work to food because we want the city to grow, and we're going to grab a scout. So the reason why I liked starting on a hill with a forest is because we got that production, and we can use it on a scout. And the scout actually costs 45 hammers in CPP, which I think is a little bit much, but I can see the reasoning behind it. In any case, you definitely want to have decent production right from the start, so I would say starting on a hill is even more important than in vanilla Civ. If you start on a grassland and you don't have any production nearby, then it will take you forever to recruit that first scout. And you might see the first major difference already. A lot of the basic resources on tiles, like sheep, require text to actually reveal them on the map, which is why this looks a little bit bare, simply because we just can't see some of the resources yet. We don't have the technologies. And we also need pottery to be able to recruit a settler. I'm going to start from animal husbandry because that will reveal horses, cattle, and sheep. And since we are playing with strategic balance, we will have some horses nearby. And there's a good chance we'll have cattle or sheep, which will give us much better tiles nearby. So I was originally planning to play with even more mods, because there are some really good mods that work with CPP. In fact, they require CPP. But I'm not going to do that in the first game, because I didn't want to throw too many new things at you and at myself. However, I do have a slightly different setup in mind for potential future games, assuming you guys will like Community Patch Project. Alright, so let's explore our island a bit. And since we are playing on Archipelago map, we'll probably want to go for fishing pretty soon, because that will allow us to embark. That's going to be an important tech early on. Anyway, we got the scout, we should probably grab a shrine. We are guaranteed to get a religion, since we are playing as Theodora. So why did I say the cataphract is so good? That's because the units are completely rebalanced in Community Patch Project, like a lot of other things, but ranged units are weaker on average. In fact, the archer is a really damn weak unit. You can't just spam archers and or composite bowmen and rush your neighbor like that. It's not a viable strategy, especially since composite bowman requires engineering, which is a late classical era tech, so it comes much later in the early game. And on the other hand, melee units are much stronger. Also, the warrior actually upgrades to a spearman, which has 10 combat strength, and the swordsman has 15 combat strength. So why did I say the cataphract is so good? Because the cataphract only requires military theory, which is an ancient era tech, and has 20 combat strength. That's actually kind of insane, considering most of your neighbors will only have a spearman at that point. So the cataphract has twice the base combat strength of the spearman, and way more than a swordsman still. 33% more than a swordsman. If you get more bonuses on the cataphract, it can be almost unstoppable. There's the second unit that also has 20 combat strength, which is the war elephant. That's also a pretty damn strong unit, but at least this one requires a source of ivory. And the barracks. So it's harder to recruit that guy. The cataphract only requires horses, and that's that, you don't need anything else. All you need is horses, and you can recruit these guys. So yeah. Anyway, let's continue. We'll grab the ruin. Now, the spearman still has a bonus against mounted units. However, he only has 10 base combat strength. And the cataphract has 20. If you get rushed by cataphracts, by the AI, it's really tough to defend against that. So, let's explore. This island is bigger than I thought it will be. I was a little bit worried that it's going to be really small. It almost looked like this will be it. This entire area will be our island. Fortunately, it's a little bit bigger. And that's floodplains width, which is always nice. It's still really nice in Community Patch Project. 4 base food just from that one tile with no improvements whatsoever. Okay, we almost got to population. So as I mentioned, science is not tied to population anymore. Population does not generate science. You need science from all the other things. The first science building that we'll get is going to be the council, which is unlocked by the wheel. You gain some flat science when a citizen is born, scaling with era, and you get +1 science. Then we'll get the library, which will also have a scientist specialist slot. And in case you're wondering what science need modifier means, that's related to happiness. We're going to talk about happiness a little bit later, because the whole happiness system is very different. Basically, the happiness system is based on needs, and it's kind of tied to gold, defense, science, and culture. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Alright, let's scout to the northwest a bit, see if that's the end of the island. And there's even more to the north. Also, as you might have noticed, you actually get experience on scouts from exploration. which makes total sense. And I like that. I think we'll work that salt tile, because we need some production in here to finish that shrine a little bit faster. And, oh, nice, we got a natural wonder. Mount Kilimanjaro, that's a really nice one. And it does have different yields. Most natural wonders have different yields. Many of them have much better yields than in vanilla. And we can still get the special promotion. And Barbarian Camp. So barbarians will heal every turn. We'll probably want a city over here. It's not going to be an amazing city with all that desert around here. But we definitely want to grab that wonder. That's for sure. And also, unit promotions are completely different. They are called the same, it's still accuracy and barrage, but they do very different things. The barrage line gives you ranged combat strength, and combat strength versus wounded units. And accuracy gives you a higher ranged combat strength modifier, and a bonus against cities. Personally, I prefer accuracy, because I prefer higher universal ranged combat strength. But barrage is also pretty nice. But yeah, I prefer accuracy. Let's kill that guy. And research. So now we can grab pottery. We got sheep, nice. And another one, and we got 4 horses in range. Pretty good. I like it. So I think we should go for pottery. We could go for mining, we might have some stone in range. And this will also unlock the well, which is +2 food and +1 production. But I think we should go for pottery. Yep, let's go for pottery. And since we didn't get any culture from ruins, we should get a monument. Oh, and one thing I didn't mention, I'm playing without enhanced user interface, but there is a community patch project version with its own enhanced user interface version, with its own special enhanced user interface version. I had some problems with that, so I prefer to play without. And also, I used some other mods with this, and it's just less buggy without enhanced user interface. I do kind of miss it at times, but it's not the end of the world, we'll play without it. But I'm just saying, there is a version with it, if you want to give it this a shot yourself, but you prefer playing with EUI, you can do that. Alright, let's kill that guy, and grab the camp, hopefully before they spawn a new one. Alright, we got it, 20 gold, and let's move on. There's a city-state to the north. There are some horses here. I'll have to think about the city location. I'm now leaning towards just starting a city right next to Mount Kilimanjaro. We got some floodplains to the north. We got horses. We could get 2 cities in this area. We could get a city over here and 1 city here. And then we would have 3 cities on our island. That seems reasonable. I just don't like all that desert, but there's not much we can do about that. And we got the first city-state. So now, when we meet a city-state, we get some influence with it. Which means right now, we're at 12 influence. It will decay. But we got some. Let's see what they are specialized in. Janissary, that's not bad. So city-states are also quite different with this. And the short version is that you don't have to bribe city-states with gold. You can get diplomats that you can recruit in your cities. We can't do it just yet, but we'll be able to do that later. And then you can send diplomats to city-states to get influence. You can also recruit units and give them to city-states. And from my experience, it's one of the better ways to get influence with city-states. Because you can get 15 influence for gifting a unit. You can just recruit the cheapest unit you have and give that. Then send a diplomat or so, and you get a lot of influence. In any case, influence with city-states doesn't require you to have like thousands of gold anymore. There's still some terrain down here that we should explore, so we'll do that. More wheat. And that's also a floodplains wheat. This will be a pretty decent city. This island is bigger than I thought it will be. I need to think about the exact location of this city. We'll see. So 3 turns to finish the monument. Also, as you might expect, policies are also quite different. They are very different. And another ruin, nice one. We didn't meet any AIs yet, which is not a good thing. There's pottery. We got production boost. That's actually really nice. That will finish the monument. And it should overflow to the next thing in line. Let's recruit a worker. So looks like this is it. There is another island nearby. I think we should go directly for fishing. We know there's some land over there. Is that a ruin? No. That's just salt. Yep, we'll go for fishing. It's a good idea to get trapping anyway, so we will grab that. And here's another city-state. Mercantile city-state this time. So there's another mechanic with city-states. But actually, we're going to talk about that later. I don't want to talk about too many things all at the same time. We can cover that later. And also, in case you're wondering, here's the full list of mods that I'm using. These are basically components of the community patch project. That's what they are. You can play just with the community patch and community balance patch, or you can play with everything. These are the 2 ways to play the thing. And in general, when I say community patch project, I'm referring to this entire setup. You can play just community balance patch on its own, and it's also a totally valid way to play it. Accuracy 2, and let's keep scouting. And now, right, so policies. There are 3 opening policies, which is tradition, it's completely different. There's progress, and there's authority. Authority is more for warmonger type stance, as you might imagine. Progress is the old liberty, it's quite different. And tradition is tradition. Now, tradition is still pretty good. I'm not really going to talk about every single policy here, but I'll hover over all of them. If you want to read all of this, then feel free to pause. I just don't want to spend 10 minutes talking about all of this. But tradition is basically for tall empires, like it's always been. Progress is pretty good for going wide, but progress is pretty good in general. And in fact, we are going to go with progress. So we can talk about progress a bit. Adopting the progress opener will give us 25 science when a citizen is born in our capital, scaling with era. And like I mentioned before, science is not tied to population anymore, which means science yields in general will be very low, and your science output will be lower compared to vanilla at the same stage of the game, which makes other sources of science relatively more important. 25 science right now here is way more than 25 science in vanilla, because again, total science yields will be much lower, and it will scale with era. So I like that part. We will also receive culture when a technology is researched, and each progress policy unlocked will grant us additional culture when technology is researched, scaling with era. So basically we get culture. In tradition we would get growth, plus 4% growth in all cities, and plus 1 food in our capital, and plus 5% growth in all cities from the tradition opener. And once we adopt all the policies in progress, we will unlock the Parthenon, which is the wonder, as you probably remember. We will get 20 gold when a citizen is born in any city, scaling with era. That's not too bad. It will also grant us access to medieval era policy branches, ignoring era requirement. So you can get access to these branches before getting into medieval era, simply by finishing progress. If you have a very good culture output, that means you can get these policies ahead of time, quote unquote. And it also provides 1 point out of 3 required in total towards unlocking access to ideologies. So you unlock access to ideologies by completing 3 social policy branches. And it allows the purchase of great writers with faith, starting in the industrial era. That's probably the least important part. We're going to adopt progress. And the first thing we'll pick up later is going to be expertise, which is plus 20% production towards buildings, and tile improvement construction rate is increased by 25%. And then we can get liberty, which will give us a worker near the capital, and plus 1 movement for all civilian units. The other 3 policies in progress are organization, which means cities earn plus 10 food and culture when they construct buildings, and bonuses scale with era. We'll get equality, which is plus 2 gold and plus 1 production in every city, and plus 1 happiness for every 15 citizens in non-puppeted cities. And fraternity, which is plus 2 food in every city, and plus 2 science from city connections. So again, we got science here. One of the reasons I like progress, but I kind of really like progress for the extra worker. But these science bonuses are definitely nice too. Right now, from my experience, tradition tends to be a little bit better in the long run if you go tall. But I do like progress opener. These are both equally viable from my experience so far, which is certainly nice. There's no one best obvious opener. Like, there isn't one opener that's superior in most situations. At least, again, from my experience so far. Tradition is slightly better, but it's not, like, way better. Right, free population. We want to finish that worker ASAP. So, actually, we can speed it up 2 turns. The city won't grow for 2 turns, but that's okay. I just want to finish that worker ASAP. And we should probably kill this guy to prevent him from spawning barbarians. And then we can explore past Tyre. That seems reasonable. There's shopping. And... okay, that's slightly out of range. And fishing is next. We definitely want fishing. To check out this island over here. We know we can reach it because this is not option. Alright, let's start improving things. So the only problem is that we didn't research mining. I think we should go for mining first and then we'll go for sailing. Because sailing will take a while and we definitely need mining. That's a no-brainer here. And here we go. Researching a technology granted us plus 10 culture. And plus 10 culture is actually quite a bit at this stage of the game. It's almost 1/4 of our next policy. That's quite a lot. As for our next production, we could go for settler right away, which actually isn't a bad idea. I normally wait to get 4 population into capital before recruiting the first settler, but yeah, let's grab that settler. And we'll improve the horses. We still didn't meet any AIs, which is not good. Hopefully we can fix that in the reasonable future. Once we finish sailing. But that's kind of to be expected on archipelago maps. That's one of the downsides of archipelago maps, which is why we need sailing early. Well, we need fishing to be able to embark, but I also want sailing to build a trireme. But once we get fishing, we'll be able to explore other islands nearby. We know there's at least one. Next. And not much to see here, but I'll just reveal all the tiles that I can reveal for now. Almost done with that barbarian camp. Alright, let's finish them off. I'm not sure if this is a different island or just a continuation of ours. I guess we'll find out. Let's grab the gold. And we could actually buy something. How much would a second settler cost us? Oh yeah, we can't actually buy a settler. We could buy a worker, but we will get a worker. We could buy a granary. And we could actually rush Stonehenge. Now, this will not complete it instantly, because the way it works for buildings in CPP is that you just buy some of the production. So, as you can see on the tooltip, investing gold in a building reduces its production cost by 50%, or 25% if it's a wonder. So I could spend 160 gold on Stonehenge, but then I would still have to produce 75% of it. So that's how it works, and 50% in case of buildings. And we got a quest from a city-state. Yeah, we should definitely do that. We'll go help with the archer, because this might not be possible with a regular warrior. The barbarians will heal themselves every turn. But anyway, I think this episode is getting long enough already, so I'm going to continue in the next part. I hope you enjoyed this introduction to Community Patch Project. This isn't going to be an entirely serious game, which is why I'm playing on lower difficulty. It's more of a let's show what Community Patch Project is all about. It's going to be very different compared to a normal Civ game. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.